Alright, so, like most people, I think technology is great. It allows us to do a lot of great things. Therefore, I'm subscribed to Wired Magazine's newsletter, and I get their articles. As I've been reading through it this past couple of months, I've been noticing kind of a certain trend in the politics of what they're doing and the loaded way in which they write stories. There's a website somewhere on the internet called MediaBiasFactCheck.com, and it terms the site as left-center, having a left-center bias, but the factual reporting being high. Which is interesting. It just got me to thinking, if you have a bias, but you have a good set of facts, is that possible? And I think, yes, it is. You can kind of present the facts, but then give your take on the facts. But to me, there is a certain fidelity that facts should bring about, and you shouldn't try to spin them in ways, which is why this little installment of Oddit, the official podcast of the Freckle Journal, Oddit standing for Auditoration, is called wellOrwell, with a question mark at the end, because is what's being done here well for the well-being of the world, or is it Orwellian? So, the article that I stumbled across in my inbox earlier today was Facebook Can Absolutely Control Its Algorithm by Aaron Griffith. It was published on September 26, 2017 at 9:14 p.m. Has a rather unflattering picture of Mr. Zuckerberg. Alright, so what I found interesting is Mr. Zuckerberg is one of the more Orwellian kind of figures of this century, if certain rumors are to be believed. At some point, he also, on record, I think, said something to the effect of, "These dumb effers are trusting me with their information," which is kind of spooky there, but, sometimes you get hubris going. What I found odd was that he was the one that was making a case for free speech, as he was, in a very polite way, in my opinion, being grilled by Wired Magazine. So, announcing new tools last week to police things like Russia's purchase of political ads, CEO Mark Zuckerberg said Facebook could do better, but tried to set expectations. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're going to catch all bad content in our system. He framed his reasoning in terms of freedom of speech. We don't check what people say before they say it, and frankly, I don't think society should want us to. Now, I don't know if that came from a different interview or if that's directly something that Mark said to Wired, but either way, they're trying to take issue with that by saying, well, Mr. Zuckerberg was able to take down games that were making the user experience less than ideal and were probably driving users away. Then also social cam and video, which began annoying users. Facebook demoted their content, and therefore, based on this, it should be able to police political content. Facebook does police political content, but not in the United States. In China and Vietnam, and I believe also Pakistan, they have developed tools to help those governments rein in their citizenry, which is all kinds of creepy. But what's creepier is that Wired Magazine, which is a journalistic outlet, which should be very interested in freedom of speech, has decided to grill him and the company on the issue, and it even mentioned the Vietnam and Chinese involvement with Facebook, but it didn't connect censorship in one country, being Orwellian, to censorship in our country, being Orwellian. The thing about political speech is it's different from having an annoying game removed or demoted, or an annoying app within a website removed or demoted. Facebook is a platform, and this article paints that as not being a defense for not controlling political things that go on the website. It's stated as its main point of contention Russian ads appearing both for Black Lives Matter and against Black Lives Matter. I don't know anything about the backstory of that, but that just sounds like somebody with money purchased an ad to run about political things going on in the United States. They may have been an outside foreign actor. That being said, the way to combat that is not to censor it and then getting into the quagmire of having the repercussions of having to censor other material and having a potential snowball effect to where basically the purpose of what a lot of people use Facebook for is gone. But the answer to, if you're concerned about speech on Facebook and fake news on Facebook, is to have the citizenry talk among themselves. So say you're Wired and you're concerned about what's going on, continue to inform people about the stories. Run your own campaigns. Also, don't take such a cynical view of people. Yes, people can be influenced by faulty information, but you also can't necessarily know that you're not yourself in possession of faulty information and then kind of enforce your own world view on people. You have to let people make mistakes and compare notes. That's what a democratic republic, which is what the United States is all about. At the end of this, also, there was a video that talks about how Facebook can sometimes have really bad content pop up on it, like live murders being live streamed, basically. And you don't want to, nobody wants to see that or have that be on their website. But its prevention is probably fairly difficult. However, the reason I even mention it is because it's incredibly cynical to create a guilt by association narrative here by posting that video right after this article. Now, that just could be because these two things are related contextually, but just something in the whole tone of the article strikes me as a bit off. Basically, it seems that they are attributing the motive of wanting to make revenue off of fake news to Facebook. And here's the two paragraphs that will give you an inkling of why I believe that that's the stance that this author on Wired was taking. In other words, Facebook's algorithm is determined by data, and it's based on what users want. Changes to the newsfeed algorithm are in the name of getting users increasingly addicted to Facebook. So far, fake news, which my caveat on that is, how do you know it's fake news? Has proven to be addictive. In the last year, Facebook's user base and revenue have grown by 17% and 47% respectively. So based on the fact that Facebook has grown in the past year, that means that it's necessarily due to one causal factor of fake news. Doesn't strike me as particularly scientific, but I digress. In the days after presidential election, Zuckerberg believed the notion that fake news influenced the campaign was a pretty crazy idea. It kind of is, because even if fake news does influence the campaign, it can come from either party, either side, or any number of persons. And it is not Facebook's fault, nor does Facebook or even all the news organizations in the world combined as one unitary fact-finding force are they going to be able to effectively and fairly manage presenting content in a way that's 100% factual and accurate, because that's just the inherent challenge of sifting through information, which is the job of every person to do individually. What needs to be done is fostering conversation, responsibility, and an awareness of how to do critical thinking, not just flat-out censorship of stuff. So the article goes on. He even brushed off a personal warning from President Obama. Yeah, it's pretty partisan right there. About the problem, according to the Washington Post. Okay, so the president warned him about fake news during an election when a candidate was beating the Democratic candidate. What was Mark supposed to do about that? If people want to vote a certain way, or want to view certain content, or certain parties want to buy certain advertisements, there's not much that can be done. That's just what living in a democratic republic is. Now Facebook faces pressure on numerous fronts. special counsel Robert Mueller and congressional committees are investigating the Russian-sponsored ads. Democracy activists want to corral fake news. And there are potential antitrust and privacy regulations in Europe. Facebook now acknowledges its role in the election and is cooperating with investigators. So it appears that basically they have been pressured and are beginning to bow to pressure, much in the same way that they have begun to work with China. So that leads me to ask the question of my good audience here. Is this well for the well-being of the nation? Orwell. Or is it Orwell? Orwellian. I know that's a really cumbersome thing, kind of goofy, but I think that's a good mnemonic, and it'll keep all of this stuff kind of associated in people's heads. I'm going to do these every once in a while because I just keep coming across stuff like this, and it's really, really weird. Thanks for listening. If you like what you saw, subscribe and give this a thumbs up, because that definitely helps my resolve, helps me get noticed on YouTube and gain subscribers, which, the more people that are commenting on the videos and stuff, I think we can carry on in that good tradition of discourse that has had problems on YouTube, but nonetheless overall is good. Consider donating to my Patreon, because I am trying to grow my business, The Fractal Journal, and I'd like to bring more people on board, and I think this can really take off into something great. Either way, whether or not I get patrons or subscriptions, I'll keep on doing this because I find it very interesting and very important, and I will do so at even, great personal cost. Thanks for listening. Have a great time wherever time finds you, and goodbye.